It was a lovely day at Family Farm, and the sheep were grazing quietly in the fields.
Are you ready, Tommy?
Said Tec.
Ready for what?
Asked Tommy.
Ready to go for a walk, of course,
Replied Tec.
Oh, hooray!
Cried Tommy. He loved going for walks.
And where are you two off?
Asked the big blue tractor.
for a walk over the fields,
Exclaimed Tec.
and perhaps we'll see a fox, or a pheasant, or a wild rabbit.
One thing's for sure. You won't see anything very interesting in the field,
Replied the big blue tractor with amusement.
But the last time I saw a badger,
Replied Tec.
A badger? Honestly? Oh, I saw an ambulance on my way to the market yesterday.
But Tec and Tommy took no notice of the big blue tractor and his big old ambulance. They would much rather see a few wild animals.
Tec,
Tommy, where are you?
over here, beep beep.
Tooted Tec. Oh, there you are. Will you come and help me collect the rubbish, please? Asked Roy.
Collect rubbish?
Moaned Tec.
Oh, not again.
Whined Tommy. Come along. It won't take us long, Roy reassured them. And the three of them set off down the lane.
Goodness gracious me, what a mess.
Exclaimed Tec when he saw all the rubbish strewn on the side of the lane. Roy picked up the crisp packets, the empty cans, the plastic bags, and put them all into Tommy the trailer. Dear me, that's very dangerous, said Roy when he saw a broken glass bottle. And to make sure that it didn't harm any of the animals, Roy put the glass straight into Tommy the trailer. And it was lucky that he was wearing gloves, or else he might cut his hands. And when they reached the cowshed, Roy took all the rubbish out of Tommy the trailer.
Can we go for a walk now, Roy?
Asked Tec. Well, of course you can. I'll go and open the gate for you, said Roy. And after Roy had opened the gate, Tec and Tommy drove through the paddock and out into the field. And off Roy went to fix the fence and mend the holes in the stone walls. That's strange, thought Tec. Roy seems to be spending a lot of his time mending holes in the walls these days. Someone must be climbing over the walls instead of going over the stile. Oh, look, said Tec. Badgers! And the two watched as the badger hid in the grass.
Tec, watch where you're going,
shouted Tommy the trailer. But Tec went headfirst straight into the stone wall. "Oh, ouch!" cried the little red tractor with pain.
Hey, look what's over there, whispered Tec.
And the little red tractor and the trailer stood perfectly still while they watched the wild rabbit munching on grass in the field. And after a little while, Tec stopped in his tracks. "Goodness gracious me!" he exclaimed. "What's the matter?" asked Tommy. But Tec didn't need to explain. There before him was a huge hole. "Come on, we'd better go and tell Roy," said Tec, and the two drove back along the field. "Roy! Roy!" shouted Tec.
Dear me, what's the matter?
asked Roy.
There's a big hole over there,
puffed Tec, short of breath.
"It's huge."
"Oh dear," sighed Roy. Holes, holes, holes. They were everywhere, and he had to close them up, or else all the animals would get mixed up. But Roy was very grateful that they had come back to tell him. "I'll be there now just as soon as I've finished here," said Roy. And off went the two through the paddock and into the next field in search of more wild animals. And right on cue, who should come along the path but Mr. Hitch and Mr. Hike.
Who are they, Tec? Do you know them?
asked Tommy, but Tec didn't know them. And the two hid out of sight of the walkers.
Where are we, Hitch?
asked Hike impatiently. Perhaps we're there, or somewhere here.
Oh, give me that map.
Hike turned the map the right way up.
Where's the compass, Hitch? Give it to me.
Here it is.
And what does it say?
asked Hike in his all-important manner. 1:15. I thought it was lunchtime, said Hitch.
That's your watch, you fool, not the compass, said Hike, giving him a shove.
But to be honest, Hike was also feeling a little lightheaded, and he sat down next to him. Tec and Tommy watched the scene in silence. The two of them ate their sandwiches, and biscuits. Look, Tommy. Then the two of them drank a bottle of pop each. And then Hitch threw the bottle on the ground. And Hike too. Goodness me! exclaimed Tec. They're throwing the rubbish everywhere.
Now then, said Hike, where's the stile? There should be a stile around here somewhere.
Oh, it doesn't matter, said Hitch. We'll go over the fence.
Good idea, agreed Hike.
Hike began climbing over the stone wall and resting on the wire fence.
Oh, they're not supposed to climb over the wire. They're supposed to use the stile. What shall we do?
But just as Hike was about to drop down into the field, he fell and began to whine.
Ow, ow, ow! My leg! Oh,
Try and get up and rest against the wall,
oh,
said Hitch.
I've hurt my leg!
Shouted Hike.
Oh, oh,
But Hitch didn't know what to do.
oh, 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 oh.
We'd better go and tell Roy, whispered Tec.
Yes, agreed Tommy. And the two of them drove out of the field and back to find Roy.
Roy! Roy!
Shouted Tec and Tommy over each other.
Somebody in the field has thrown rubbish on the ground, has climbed over the fence, and has hurt himself.
Go and tell Molly to phone for an ambulance, and I'll go down and see what's happened, said Roy. The sun disappeared behind a big black cloud. It was just about to start raining on Hitch and Hike, the two silly walkers. The two of them were very pleased to see Roy arriving on Mike the motorbike.
Come here! I've hurt myself! I've hurt my leg climbing over the wall! Oh! Oh!
And the three moved slowly over towards the trailer. Then, after helping Hike onto the trailer and telling him to hold on tight, Roy drove carefully back to the cowshed.
Hey! Wait for me!
Shouted Hitch. And when they reached the cowshed, the ambulance was coming up the lane.
Oh, ow! Ooh, ow!
So long, shouted Roy to the ambulance men, and thanks for your help.
The problem with people like Hitch and Hike is they cause so much trouble,
Sighed Tec. Don't they just? Agreed Roy. It was spring in Family Farm, and the big blue tractor and the plough were out ploughing first thing in the morning. But Tec hadn't woken up properly yet.
Tec! Tec!
Called someone, and the little tractor looked around sleepily. Murmured Tec.
Here!
Shouted the voice.
Sam, is that you?
Asked Tec.
Yes, and I'm fed up of waiting. I want to go to the field to scare crows.
He said in an irritated voice.
But the big blue tractor has to finish ploughing first,
Said Tec.
I know, but maybe he's finished already. He's been out there since first thing this morning.
Said Sam the scarecrow.
I won't be long.
Said Tec and off we went to the field.
Good morning, Tec,
Said the hens.
Good morning, hens. Beep, beep.
Tec sounded his horn. By the time he got to the field, he was out of breath, and so he stopped to look at the big blue tractor and the plowing.
Pity I wasn't a big, strong tractor like the big blue tractor.
But if Tec was small, even the big blue tractor looked small in the big field. And to Tec's surprise, he had only ploughed a quarter of a field.
My goodness me, Sam the Scarecrow will be very disappointed,
Said Tec to himself, and he was on his way back to the shed when his attention was caught by the gulls who were looking for worms for breakfast.
I'm lucky I'm a tractor and not a gull. I would never be able to eat worms. Yuck!
Spat Tec. But while Tec was looking at the gulls, he wasn't paying attention to where he was going, and suddenly he turned on his side into the middle of the furrow.
New potatoes, what's happened?
Squeaked Tec. And though he tried to go forward and backward, he couldn't, because his two wheels were in the air. The big blue tractor came nearer. Then Roy jumped out of the cab and walked over to Tec. "What are you doing there, Tec?" But before he had a chance to answer, Roy had lifted him out. "You look frightened, Tec. Are you okay?" asked Roy.
Yes, thanks. I would love to be able to plough and plant seeds,
said Tec. "Why don't you go and help Molly in the garden?" said Roy.
That's a good idea,
said Tec, and off he went. But before going into the garden, he popped into the machine shed to tell Sam the Scarecrow that the big blue tractor had not finished ploughing the field.
Goodness gracious, that means I'll be in this shed for days,
said Sam in a disappointed voice.
No, of course you won't, said Tec. He'll have finished by tonight, you'll see, and I'll go back to the field again before lunch to see how he's getting on. I have to go now. I'm on my way to the garden to help Molly. Bye-bye,
said Tec, tooting his horn.
Toot-toot. Lucky for some,
said Sam the Scarecrow sadly. But that was that. There was nothing for it but to dream. Dream that his feet were in the mud and his nose in the sky, and that all the crows had flown far, far away. In the garden, Tec and Molly were busy gardening. It was Tec's job to carry the plants, and Molly's job to plant them. "I'm going to plant new potatoes first," said Molly. One potato, 2 potatoes, 3 potatoes, 4 potatoes. And by the time she had reached the end of the row, there were no potatoes left in the box. "Now then, what about the lettuce?" Molly said. And Molly started to plant the lettuce plants at the top of the row. 1 lettuce, 2 lettuces, 3 lettuces, 4. And by the end of the row,
all the lettuces were planted and the box was empty. Toot, toot, well done, tooted Tec happily. My word, look at the time, Tec. I'd better go and prepare lunch, said Molly, pulling off her gardening gloves.
Goodness gracious, said Tec. I promised to Sam that I would go back to the field to see how the ploughing was coming along. And off he shot out of the garden.
Molly gathered the equipment together and off she went to the house. Tec drove past the shed and up the lane and through the gate to the field where the big blue tractor was still ploughing. As she started to prepare lunch, Molly heard a funny sound coming from outside. She looked in the back garden, but there was nothing there to make a noise, only the clean clothes drying in the sun. She looked across the farmyard. Nothing there either. But as she turned to go into the house, she heard some clucking and bleating coming from the garden, and off she went to see what was going on. What a shock! Someone was in the garden. She saw a pair of horns and some feathery tails. Gertie the goat and the hens, they were all pecking and scratching and trampling in the garden. Shoo, shoo, out you go, you naughty things, she shouted at them. Tec was driving across the farmyard when he heard all the shouting coming from the garden. Oh my goodness, he squeaked before driving as fast as his wheels could take him to the battlefield. Out you go! Toot! Shouted Tec, tooting his horn angrily. Out you go! Shoo! And at last the two succeeded in driving all the animals out again. But what a mess in the vegetable garden. And while the big blue tractor was ploughing, Tec and Molly were busy trying to sort out the garden. We've finished at last, said Molly. Thanks for your help, Tec. You're welcome, Molly. And Tec drove out of the garden. And Molly made sure that she closed the gate this time. Then Tec went back to the field once more to watch the big blue tractor ploughing. By the time he had arrived, the big blue tractor had ploughed over half the field.
Great! Sam will be delighted, said Tec happily.
But then, all at once, the big blue tractor stopped and wouldn't move an inch. Tec went closer to see what was the matter. Oh, I'm ill. I've got a tummy ache, moaned the big blue tractor. And indeed he did look ill, and there was a very strange noise coming from his tummy. But after putting his head under the bonnet, "I know what's wrong with him," said Roy, and he asked Tec to go to the tool shed to fetch a new diesel filter for the big blue tractor. "Of course I'll go,"
said Tec, before tooting his horn and going towards the farmyard.
The big blue tractor must have a terrible tummy ache,
said Tec. And when he reached the farmyard, it was not long before he had found the diesel filter and took it back to the field. In a second, Roy had let out the wind from the big blue tractor's tummy and had fitted a new diesel filter instead of the old one. "Oh, that's better," said the big blue tractor as Roy climbed into the cab and started the engine. The tractor felt a lot better, although he looked very tired.
Plowing must be very hard work, even for a big tractor,
thought Tec.
But how on earth was he going to tell Sam that they hadn't finished ploughing the field? Toot toot! Sam!
Tec sounded his horn as he got to the shed. But what a shock!
Sam the scarecrow wasn't there.
Where had he gone?
Tec was tired by now after going back and forth between the shed and the field all day, and he didn't feel like going to look for Sam the scarecrow.
But he decided that he had better go and check the garden, just in case Gertie or the hens had crept back in and made a mess again.
Hey, Tec, look at me!
Shouted someone.
Tec, Tec!
And Tec followed the voice into the garden. And who do you think was standing in the middle of the potato patch?
Yes, no less than Sam the scarecrow himself. What are you doing there, Sam the scarecrow?
Shouted Tec. No, I'm Sam the Scarehens now,
Laughed Sam.
The big blue tractor hasn't finished plowing the field yet,
said Tec. Oh, I don't care about the field now. I'm enjoying myself here, said Sam the Scarehens. It was very noisy at Family Farm. All the animals were mooing, meowing, clucking and snorting. Tec came out of the machine shed.
Goodness me, what is wrong with everyone today?
Where was Roy? Everyone was hungry.
What shall we do?
Said Tec.
If we want any peace, we will have to feed them all,
said Tommy the trailer.
Who shall we feed first?
Said Tec.
Just listen,
Said Tommy the trailer. Then they heard a sound.
that was Daisy.
Yes, you're right.
And off they went to the cowshed.
Goodness me, where is Roy? I have not had my breakfast yet,
Said Daisy the cow.
We think he may have slept late,
Said Tec.
So who's going to feed me today then?
What would you like?
A little hay, if that's not too much trouble.
Tec and Tom carried on their way. Beep, beep! Tec blew his horn and Tommy the trailer unloaded the hay. Before Daisy had a chance to say thank you, Tec and Tommy the trailer were on their way.
Who's next then? Oh, that's Quack Jack and Ducky Jenny and their chicks.
And off they went to the pen to fetch grain. And when they got there, Tommy the trailer unloaded the grain.
Here you are now,
said Tommy the trailer.
Where is Roy this morning?
said Quack Jack. Then Tec and Tommy the trailer went to look for Jarf and the chickens.
Can you hear the clucking?
said Tec.
Yes, I can hear them. There they are,
said Tommy the trailer. And they unloaded the oats in front of them before driving on.
Thank you very, very much, Tec and Tommy,
said the chickens.
Have you got any food for me? I'm really hungry,
said Kitty the cat. But they did not have any food for Kitty, and they so much wanted to finish before Roy woke up, so they hurried along.
next,
said Tec. But Gertie the goat was already helping herself to the grass.
Where is Roy? I have bleated so much my voice has nearly disappeared. It's about time he got up,
said Gertie the goat. Roy came into the kitchen. He was not yet quite awake. He looked at the clock. Goodness me, I have slept late, he said. He rushed out and found Kitty meowing. You will get some food in a minute. He had not noticed that the chickens were feeding from the grain on the floor. When he poked his head in through the shed, Daisy was busy eating her hay. And the chickens were eating as well. And somebody had fed the ducks.
Good morning, Roy. It's hard work feeding all the animals,
said Tec and Tommy. Good morning, you two, and thank you very much, said Roy.
Now it was Roy's turn to surprise Tec and Tommy the trailer. "Come with me, you two," said Roy.
What is he doing?
Said Tommy the trailer.
I really don't know,
Said Tec. And when Roy came out, he nearly frightened Tec and Tommy to death, carrying a big fishing rod. "What's wrong with you?" said Roy. "Haven't you seen a fishing rod before?"
No, never.
Said Tec and Tommy. "Well, come on then. Perhaps we can catch a fish in time for supper," said Roy.
a fish.
Said Tec.
Oh yes, let's catch a fish.
Said Tommy the trailer. And off they went towards the river. Across fields, under trees, until they finally reached the river.
Have we arrived yet?
Said Tec. "Yes, we have," said Roy. Roy loved fishing, but never got much of a chance because he was always so busy on the farm.
My little wheels are hurting me after riding over those fields, and I'm all out of breath,
said Tec. Roy was not taking any notice. He was enjoying the sun and getting ready to fish. "What a great place to fish," said Roy. And after throwing some bait into the water, Roy sat back and hoped that he would catch a fish.
Have you ever caught a fish?
Said Tec. "Shh! Don't shout, Tec, or you'll frighten the fish," said Roy.
Achoo!
Tec sneezed. A fly had gone up his nose. "Tec," said Roy. Everyone remained still and silent, so silent that everyone fell asleep. However hard he tried, Tec could not keep his eyes open. Roy was determined to stay awake and catch a fish for supper. Was there something biting? No. He threw more bait into the water. "I think I'll have a cup of tea now," said Roy. He put his rod down and pulled his flask out of his bag. "Oh, how lovely this is," said Roy. Suddenly there was a pull. Roy had caught something. He jumped to his feet. Tec woke up as Roy was being pulled towards the river.
Woo!
"Trout! We have trout for supper tonight," shouted Roy.
Yippee! We have caught a fish!
Said Tec.
said Tec. Roy put the fish in his bag, and the three set off for home. They arrived back at the yard. Roy was looking forward to his supper. Before going into the house, he carefully put his rod away in the shed. "Right then, where is my fish?" said Roy. But when he looked into Tommy's trailer, it had disappeared. "But it was here a moment ago," said Roy. Roy looked under the truck, but it was not there. Then he looked under Tec, but it was not there either.
Look, Roy! Look who's eating the fish!
Shouted Tec. "Who?" said Roy. And there was Kitty eating the fish.
Oh, my supper,
said Roy. But the cat was not to blame. Somebody had forgotten to give her breakfast.